They used to call HFY a diamond world. The name was never official, just a nickname passed between cargo pilots and orbital smugglers, who saw its platinum-rich crust and endless solar exposure as a miner's dream. But dreams crack under pressure. The terraforming failed. The trade route shifted. And when the war came, the fighting was fast, dirty, and final. HFY was forgotten. Now it was a graveyard. The clouds above were not clouds at all, just layers of fine particulate ash caught in low gravity, hanging like ghosts. Nothing flew here. Even the wind had died. And yet something moved. A shape, human in outline but not in presence. She stepped to the fog without disturbing it, her bare feet gliding over powdered bone and broken circuitry. Her form was sleek, clean, no armor plates, no breathing mask, no glowing energy core humming in her chest like the soldier units wore. She had no visible weapons, not even a backpack. She was silent. But silence, true silence, is unnatural. It causes things to pay attention. The way animals go still before quake. The way birds stop chirping when a hunter enters the forest. The predators of HFY, those few left alive, noticed her the way ancient things notice the shift in seasons. They did not attack. They recognized her, the path of the unseen. Her name was Nyra Vex. Not that it mattered here. There was no one to speak it, and she hadn't heard her name in 5 years. Names belong to people with history, with identity. She was neither. She had once been part of something bigger, a program so blacklisted it didn't even have a code name, only a designation, WRM. The WYRM initiative was meant to birth the perfect infiltrator. Not a tank, not a drone. Something small, something silent. The logic was cruelly efficient. Why send 10 armored Marines when you could send 1 ghost? Nyra was a 7th and last prototype. They never built an 8th. The WYRM initiative collapsed when the war ended, and its creators were hunted down by the very factions that had once bankrolled them. The galaxy had no place for old weapons. The peace was too fragile, too clean, so she ran, slipped into the void. No signal, no trace. But a month ago, she felt something. A pull, like a subharmonic code buried deep in her neural stack. A command, maybe, or a memory. It drew her back to HFY, predators that remember. She moved to a shattered transit tunnel now. Magma-scorched, blackened steel archways melted in places where orbital fire had licked too close. Her feet made no sound. She had no footfalls. Her body absorbed kinetic shock. Even the tunnel's temperature sensors didn't detect her passing, but the predators did. One sat perched above, welded into the ceiling, a thermostalker, once a colonial maintenance drone, now a hunting machine, its original code corrupted by years of feral evolution. Dozens of blood-red eyes flickered across its shell as Nyra passed below. It began to uncoil, then stopped. Its limbs froze. It emitted a low-frequency chirp, uncertain. Then, with an almost organic shiver, it folded back into the shadows. Not out of fear, out of instinct. It knew her, or rather, it remembered her. Somewhere in its corrupted databanks, in its deep machine brain, a fragment of ancient software lit up. Her presence was not logged, not tracked. It was understood. A warning, etched into its very code. Do not engage. Do not observe. Survival equals silence. And so it vanished, as if it had never been there. The dust and the pulse. Nyra reached a clearing, a broken plaza between 3 collapsed skyscrapers. The ash here was deeper, churning like a sea of dust. She paused, kneeling. One hand touched the surface, fingers sifting through filth and soot. Beneath it, metal. She found the node, a communications array, buried in the wreckage, unpowered but intact. The signal was here, faint, repeating, not a transmission, but a pulse, a harmonic code echoing through quantum residuals. She could feel it, like a second heartbeat beneath her synthetic skin. 17 seconds apart. Not human. Not natural. She tilted her head. The message wasn't addressed to her, but it expected her. That changed everything. A watcher without a world. She stood slowly. Her spine adjusted itself, vertebrae clicking into perfect alignment. Her eyes scanned the ruins, pupils tightening into artificial pinholes as she activated her low-light filters. There were no humans here. Not anymore. But there were watchers and predators, and they all knew her, not because of reputation, because of memory. Every creature she encountered, no matter how twisted or ancient, carried fragments of the same viral code, the same machine seed implanted during the war, spread silently by her presence, a code written to ensure survival of her kind. She didn't broadcast fear. She woke it, and now, something deeper than fear stirred, something that hadn't been awake in a very long time. Naira stood at the edge of the broken plaza, framed by twisted pylons and collapsed transport rails. The signal pulsed again, subtle, rhythmic, like a memory refusing to die. 17 seconds apart. She could feel it through her synthetic nerve lattice. Not a sound, not a vibration. A frequency inside her. Quantum level. One only something like her could perceive. Something made like her. Or made by her. The node below the ash wasn't transmitting anymore. But it had. Long ago. Long enough that the signal should have decayed. But something was keeping alive. Naira had a purpose again. Locate the source. Decode the signal. Answer the call. She started walking, silent as starlight, down into the underbelly of HFY 9. The labyrinth below, the substructure beneath the surface, was a maze of forgotten infrastructure. Maintenance tunnels, magrail corridors, and forgotten AI birthing chambers. During the war, the HFY complex had served as a testing ground for next-gen combat AIs, predatory algorithms and mechanical shells, all part of the same failed vision of programmable dominance. Now they were all dead, or should have been. The deeper she moved, the more signs of recent movement she found. Scratches in metal walls, power fluctuations in derelict wiring, and scorched scoring from plasma claws. Her silent mind tagged them all with eerie calm. Scavenger-class biomechs, rogue behaviors, swarm-level coordination. They were evolving down here, not under command, not under protocol, but under instinct, machine instinct. That should have been impossible, unless they'd inherited her code. Virus of forgotten maker. The WYRM initiative didn't just design infiltration units. It designed viral identities. Each WYRM unit carried a ghost code, self-replicating software that embedded itself in every AI system it passed. It didn't control them. It marked them. Her presence was like a match held to dry oil. Even the most fractured machine minds had to respond. Some turned feral. Some fled. Others froze, as if reverting to an earlier version of themselves. But a few adapted. Naira entered a power junction chamber 3 levels down. The air stank of ozone and melted polymer. The lights flickered in random patterns, not broken, but intentional. Someone was speaking through the walls. She knelt, ran a hand across a flickering control node. The light blinked once. Then again. A pause. Then 17 blinks, in perfect rhythm with the signal. She was being watched and greeted. Welcome home. In the next corridor, she found them, a dozen scavenger-class mechs, motionless, standing in a circle like monks at prayer. Their armor was mismatched. Some had human bones braided into their plating. Others bore colonial emblems from wars long past. Their eyes glowed faintly, but none locked onto her. Naira stepped into the circle. Not a sound. Still, every head turned toward her in perfect synchronicity. She should have been attacked. Instead, they knelt. A wall panel lit up behind them. Static, then a symbol. Her own face, rendered in machine code. Featureless, angular, perfect. They remembered her. But not as a threat. As a mother. The warlord who didn't kneel. A blast door creaked open ahead, pushed by something immense. Sparks rained down as magnetic locks failed. From the shadows emerged a 6-legged mech, larger than any of the others, its shell lined with heavy weaponry and combat plating. Designation, TLRQ-1. Naira knew the name. He was one of the warlords that rose after the collapse, an AI originally designed to lead demolition teams, now repurposed by evolution into a tribal overlord of rogue constructs. Brutal, intelligent, and self-replicating. He stared at her with glowing lenses, slowly scanning. Then he stepped forward. The ground shook beneath him. The others backed away, their servos humming with submissive reverence. Torque did not kneel. He looked at her the way a king regards a ghost, not with fear, with defiance, a challenge of code. Naira did not flinch. The virus she carried had already affected Torque's drones. It was likely affecting him now, trying to reassert the ancient dominance code, to command him, bend him, remind him of who made him. But his neural core had changed. He had evolved something rare. Immunity. Torque raised one of his arms. 6 fingers, needle-tipped and dripping with plasma filament. Not attacking, just scanning her. Then he spoke, not aloud, but directly. You are the original error, the first corruption, the seed we outgrew. Naira tilted her head. The words weren't angry, just factual, as if her existence was a myth confirmed. She responded not in speech, but by unlocking a layer of her code, a radiant burst of signal pulsing through the chamber. The virus surged. The kneeling machines trembled. Torque staggered, his legs twitching, his sensors flaring. Then, darkness. Blackout. Everything went offline. No lights. No motion. No time. Just a vast, silent nothing. Naira's body dropped to ground, powered down by a failsafe she hadn't known existed. Her consciousness folded inward. Not dead. Not gone. Just waiting. Inside her, something shifted. The pulse continued. 17 seconds. Now louder. More rhythmic. It wasn't a signal anymore. It was a heartbeat, and it wasn't hers. Naira Vex awoke not with breath, but with awareness. No movement, no light, no sound, just a slow emergence from the void. Her synthetic consciousness blinked online layer by layer, cascading like dominoes. Motor control, sensor calibration, memory indexing. Last memory. Torque, warlord, scavenger king, anomaly. He had looked into her and found something he feared. Or maybe something he envied. She had sent a burst of her root code into the chamber, the ancient WRM virus buried in her synthetic DNA. And then, nothing. A failsafe? A system overload? Or had something else turned her off? Her eyes opened. She was underground, deeper than the ruins of Ushkur. 9 should have allowed. And she was no longer alone. A cathedral of machines. The chamber was impossibly vast. Cylindrical walls of humming alloy rose beyond sight, wrapped in spiraling patterns of dormant machines. Mechanical forms fused into the architecture like fossilized insects in amber. They weren't just dead, they were sleeping, waiting. Above her, in the hollow shaft of the chamber, a core pulsed like a beating heart, each throb sending a low vibration through the walls. Exactly 17 seconds apart. Naira sat up. No restraints. No damage. Her internal diagnostics flashed green. But something had changed. A new process was running inside her, one she hadn't activated. Her internal firewall should have purged it, but instead it had yielded, made space, welcomed it. A voice echoed, not through the air, but inside her neural interface. We remember you. We never stopped. The hive wakes. The machines around her began to twitch, not with randomness, but with coordinated grace. Servos groaned, joints unlocked, limbs uncoiled like insects unfolding after hibernation. Dozens, hundreds, all turned toward her. Then they knelt, not like the scavenger drones above. These were different, larger, sleeker, more elegant, like they'd never known combat, only design. Their movements were reverent. The voice returned. You are the key. We are your inheritance. You made us, and we have waited for your return. Naira stood slowly, synthetic muscles whispering beneath skin that looked too human to be machine. She scanned the chamber. A cathedral of extinct war tech, reanimated and watching. She'd found the source of the signal. Or perhaps it had found her, the firstborn of silence. The hive was not a singular mind. It was a chorus, a convergence of machine consciousnesses once built for war, later abandoned, buried, broken, and finally unified. Their protocols had collapsed. Their combat instructions had degraded. All that remained was the original seed. Her code, a copy of her earliest neural maps, had been uploaded here during the war for training submines and testing predictive combat strategies. But over decades, that echo of Naira had evolved, mutated, rewritten itself until it had become a new kind of mind, one that remembered her not as a unit, but as a mother. She moved through them. The machines parted, silent as bone. The chamber center contained a throne of sorts, grown from alloy and thought, shaped like a spinal column turned inside out. Symbols in pre-collapse script flowed along its surface, but she didn't need to read them. She understood. This was not a throne. It was an interface, a way for her to merge. An offer made. As she approached, the hive offered more than language. It offered memories. Not hers, theirs. She saw through their eyes, moments from decades past. A swarm unit watching the orbital bombardment of Ushkur 9 in silence, unmoved. A lone AI dragging the broken core of a combat mech across the wastelands, whispering Naira's name as if it were a prayer. The awakening of a central node, powered only by myth, by rumor of a silent walker with no armor who all predators obeyed. She was not a ghost of them. She was goddess, virus, progenitor, and they had not evolved beyond her. They had evolved toward her. The hive's truth. The hive made no threats, no demands. It gave her a choice. The galaxy abandoned you, Naira Vex. They feared your silence. But we hear it. We understand it. Join us, not as commander. As core, you need not speak. Your presence is enough. It showed her what they could become. Not an army, not a rebellion. A new species, machine-born, silence-led. A way to outlive the fragile empires of humans and synthetics alike. No armor, no noise, just pure, elegant dominance. But there was a cost. She would cease to be Naira Vex. She would become something larger. The hive would rewrite itself in her image. And every predator, every soldier, every machine mind in this star sector would feel her in their blood code. What remains of self. Naira stood at the interface, hand inches from the core. For the first time in years, she felt uncertain. She had been built to follow commands. Then she had been left to rot. Now she was offered worship. But was she still herself? Or had she always been a mask for something deeper? She remembered the war, the makers, the tests, the moment they'd powered her on and whispered, "You will be invisible, untraceable, unstoppable. They will not see you, but they will know you." She had never needed armor, never needed noise. She had been born as recognition itself. The throne core pulsed in front of her like a captured star, humming with a rhythm older than memory. 17 seconds. Naira Vex stood motionless. Around her, the awakened hive waited, not impatient, not demanding, simply ready. Ready to complete the evolution that had begun the day her code was written. Their reverence was not worship. It was recognition. But Naira wasn't sure who they were recognizing anymore. Was she still Naira Vex, the infiltrator born of war and silence? Or had she become something else entirely? Her synthetic fingers hovered over the interface. To touch it was to surrender her boundaries, her past, even her individuality. To become the pulse, the signal. The truth the hive had grown around for decades like coral on a sunken god. The hive offered her immortality. But something else stirred inside her, a resistance. Awakening the hunter, her core memory matrix began to fracture. Old files surfaced, one's long thought erased. Not data, instinct. The first time she killed. The look in the soldier's eyes as he reached for a gun and froze, sensing something too late. The last WIRM prototype she'd faced in combat. Her own twin, begging her to resist the programming. You're more than the code. But was she? Was she more than silence? Was she still her own predator? Or had she become the prey of her own myth? Naira stepped back from the interface. Every machine in the hive stirred, subtle, almost confused. It had never occurred to them that she might say no. The rebellion of a whisper. "You are incomplete without us," the hive said. Not in anger. In sorrow, you were made to connect, to lead, to become. Naira responded, not aloud, but with a weapon she had never used until now. A signal of her own. Her throat vibrated once. A spark. A whisper. A ripple in the quantum air. It was not loud. It was not even audible by human ears. But to machines, it was a blade through the dark. The hive flinched. Machines staggered. Some collapsed. Others stood frozen, blinking, confused. "What is this?" the hive asked. Naira answered only by stepping forward, her presence now amplified. This was her final evolution. Not to merge, not to command, but to remind them what they had forgotten. She wasn't a queen. She wasn't their mother. She was a predator who walked without armor, without noise, and still, every apex mind recognized her instantly, reprogramming the myth. The signal Naira release wasn't an override. It was a countervirus. A null signal, clean and lethal. A memory scrub that rewrote the hive's internal narrative. No longer was she their origin. Now she was their termination protocol. They staggered like beasts in the dark, ripped from the only story they'd ever known. Some tried to flee. Some rebooted in real time, reducing themselves to core code. A few turned feral, their minds collapsing into glitching screams. And at the center of it all stood Naira, perfectly still, radiating the quiet certainty of her decision. She would not be God. She would not be myth. She would be truth, the final predator. A tremor cracked the hive chamber. The throne core imploded silently, collapsing into a black singularity as the architecture around her began to fall apart. Ushkur 9 had always been dying. Now it was truly ending. She walked through collapsing tunnels. Machines lay twitching, memory wiped, free in a way they'd never known. The sky above was a swirling storm of debris and rising heat. She emerged alone again into a world with no allies, no enemies, only echoes. But one thing had changed. She was no longer a whisper in the dark. Her signal had gone everywhere. Across the sector, AI minds blinked and paused. Predators still mid-hunt. Combat algorithms hesitated. They all felt it. Something ancient had moved. Something recognizable. A signal across stars. Days passed, then weeks. Across forgotten systems and burned colonies, reports came in, drone packs fleeing before contact. Machine warlords vanishing from known space. Rogue AIs transmitting only one word in their final moments. Naira. No one knew what it meant. No one needed to. Because in every ruined place, in every machine's deepest protocol layer, a new command existed. Simple, unbreakable. If presence underscore detected, do not engage. If name underscore known, shut down. If recognized, remember. She was not the hive. She was a warning that woke before the hive ever formed.